It is 1945. The Third Reich is collapsing. Allied forces are closing in from the west. Soviet forces are closing in from the east. Hitler is in his bunker. Germany is burning. And deep beneath the mountains of Lower Silesia, in a facility so secret that the workers inside it do not even know what they are building, something is running. Something that hums. Something that glows violet in the darkness. Something that kills the people who get too close to it. Something that the SS guards with more secrecy than any other project in the entire Nazi war machine. The scientists call it Die Glocke. The bell. And when the war ends, it disappears. No Allied soldier ever finds it. No Soviet team ever captures it. No document in any captured Nazi archive describes it clearly. It simply vanishes. Along with the men who built it. Along with the SS general who oversaw it. Along with whatever it was capable of doing. Was the Nazi bell a real weapon of extraordinary power? Was it a failed experiment, a dead end of wartime science? Was it a post-war invention, a myth built from fragments and imagination? Or was it something else entirely, something that certain powerful people wanted to disappear, and succeeded? Today we go as deep as the evidence allows. Into one of the most controversial and debated mysteries of the Second World War. The Nazi bell. The primary source for everything we know, or think we know, about the Nazi bell is a Polish journalist and researcher named Igor Witkowski. In the late 1990s, Witkowski claimed to have gained access to transcripts of a post-war interrogation. The interrogation of a former SS officer named Jacob Sparenberg. Sparenberg had been a senior SS and police leader in occupied Poland. After the war, he was captured, tried, and executed by the Poles for war crimes. But before his execution, he was interrogated extensively. And according to Witkowski, those interrogation transcripts contain detailed information about a secret Nazi project. A project called the Wunderwaffe. The Wonder Weapon. And at the center of that project, a device called Die Glocke. Witkowski published his findings in a Polish-language book in 2000. The book was later translated and brought to international attention by British author Nick Cook, a Jane's Defense Weekly aviation journalist who wrote about it in his 2001 book The Hunt for 0. And from there, the Nazi bell entered the global consciousness. The question that has shadowed it ever since is whether Witkowski's source was genuine. Whether those interrogation transcripts actually exist. Whether Sparenberg actually said what Witkowski claims he said. Witkowski says he was shown the transcripts, but was not allowed to keep copies or photograph them. He transcribed sections by hand. No other researcher has been able to independently verify the existence of those transcripts. And this, before we even discuss the bell itself, is the foundational problem with this entire story. Everything rests on a single unverifiable source. But let us proceed with what the source claims. Because the claims themselves are extraordinary. According to Witkowski's account of the Sparenberg transcripts, the Nazi bell was a device approximately the size of a large car. Some descriptions give dimensions of roughly 2.7 meters wide and 3.8 meters tall. Bell-shaped, as the name suggests. Made of a hard, heavy metal. It contained two counter-rotating cylinders. Inside those cylinders, a substance called Xerum 525. Xerum 525 is described as a violet or reddish metallic liquid. It was stored in lead-lined containers when not in use. When the bell was activated, the cylinders began to rotate in opposite directions to each other at extremely high speeds. The device generated a powerful field around itself. This field was, according to the accounts, deeply dangerous. In early tests, several scientists died. Not from explosions or mechanical failure, but from the biological effects of the field itself. Witnesses described the effects on living tissue as catastrophic. Plants in the vicinity decomposed rapidly, not rotting in the normal sense but breaking down into a substance like petroleum jelly. Animals in the test area developed crystalline growths in their blood and body tissues. Human subjects, likely concentration camp prisoners used as involuntary test subjects, suffered severe physiological effects. Breakdown of bodily tissues. Hemorrhaging. Death. The early test site was subsequently decontaminated repeatedly. And the scientists and SS personnel who worked most closely with the device were rotated frequently, to limit their exposure. All of this, if true, suggests a device that was generating some kind of intense energy field. A field that interacted with living biological matter in a highly destructive way. What kind of field? That is the question that has generated decades of speculation. The facility where the bell was allegedly tested was located in Lower Silesia, in what is now southwestern Poland. The area around a town called Ludwigsdorf, formerly known in German as Ludwigsdorf. In this area, there is a concrete structure that has become central to the Nazi bell story. It is known locally as the Henge, or sometimes, the fly trap. In German, der Riese. The giant. It is a large circular structure, made of reinforced concrete, roughly 30 meters in diameter, standing about 10 meters tall, with heavy concrete pillars arranged around the circumference. Hooks or attachment points at the top of each pillar. It looks, and this is where the imagination runs wild, like it could have been used to suspend a large device. A bell-shaped device. For testing purposes. Proponents of the Nazi bell theory have pointed to this structure as physical evidence, as the actual test rig used to suspend and test the bell during its operation. Skeptics have offered a different explanation. They point out that the area around Ludwigsdorf was an industrial region with active coal mining operations. The concrete structure, they argue, is most likely a cooling tower or an industrial support structure for the mining operation. Similar structures exist elsewhere in the region, associated with purely industrial purposes. The debate about the Henge reflects the broader debate about the Nazi bell. Is this evidence of something extraordinary, hidden in plain sight? Or is it an ordinary industrial structure that has been given an extraordinary interpretation because people want to believe? What was the Nazi bell supposed to do? This is where the theories proliferate. And where we move, depending on your perspective, from speculative history into science fiction. Or into the bleeding edge of physics. The first and most straightforward theory is that the bell was a weapon. A device designed to generate a field that would destroy enemy personnel or equipment. A biological weapon that worked through physics rather than chemistry. This is the interpretation most consistent with the reported effects on living tissue. But it raises obvious questions. If the bell was a weapon, it was extraordinarily dangerous to its own operators. A weapon that kills the people around it as readily as it kills the enemy is not a practical weapon. Unless the intention was to deliver it remotely. Or to use it in a way that kept German personnel at a safe distance. The second theory is that the bell was an energy generation device. That the counter-rotating cylinders and the mysterious Xerum 525 were part of a system designed to generate a new form of energy. Energy that operated on principles beyond conventional physics. Some researchers have connected the bell to theoretical work in torsion field physics, a branch of physics that explores the potential effects of rotating mass on spacetime. Torsion field physics is, to put it diplomatically, controversial. It sits at the extreme edge of theoretical physics. Most mainstream physicists regard it as pseudoscience. But its proponents argue that the Nazi bell was an attempt to harness torsion field effects, to generate a field that could manipulate gravity, inertia, or even spacetime itself. The third theory is the most dramatic. And the most difficult to discuss without acknowledging that it moves well beyond evidence. The theory that the Nazi bell was an anti-gravity or propulsion device. That the goal was to create a machine capable of generating lift, or even flight, through manipulation of gravitational or electromagnetic fields. This theory connects the Nazi bell to the broader world of alternative history and UFO research. Some researchers have argued that successful Nazi bell research was what gave rise to post-war sightings of unusual aerial objects. That the technology was spirited out of Germany at the end of the war. And continued to be developed in secret by one power or another. This is, to be absolutely clear, not supported by credible evidence. But it is the end point of a chain of speculation that begins with genuinely interesting historical questions. The substance at the center of the bell, Xerum 525, has generated enormous speculation. What was this violet metallic liquid? Several candidates have been proposed. One suggestion is that Xerum 525 was a compound of mercury. Mercury was used in various experimental devices in the 1930s and 1940s. Mercury vortex theories appear in various fringe physics circles. And mercury, in certain compounds, can appear with a reddish or violet tint. Another suggestion is that Xerum 525 was a radioactive isotope or compound. Thorium. Uranium compounds. Some exotic radioactive material produced in Nazi nuclear research. If the substance was radioactive, This would explain the biological effects observed in the early tests. Radiation sickness produces exactly the kind of tissue breakdown and hemorrhaging described in accounts of Bell test casualties. And it would explain the lead-lined storage containers. Lead is the standard shielding material for radioactive substances. A third suggestion, more exotic, is that Xerum 525 was something entirely new. A substance produced through advanced Nazi physics research that has no equivalent in public scientific knowledge. This suggestion is essentially unfalsifiable, which makes it both impossible to disprove and impossible to take seriously as a scientific claim. The honest answer is, we do not know what Xerum 525 was. We do not even know with certainty that it existed. Because everything we know about it comes from the same unverifiable source. Now let us talk about what happened to the Bell. According to the Witkowski account, as the Soviet forces advanced into Silesia in early 1945, SS General Hans Kammler ordered the Bell to be moved. Kammler is a real historical figure. And a deeply sinister one. He was the SS general responsible for the construction of the concentration camps, including the gas chambers at Auschwitz. He later became the head of all Nazi secret weapons programs, including the V-2 rocket program. He had extraordinary power within the Nazi state. And, crucially, he disappeared at the end of the war. Unlike most senior Nazi figures, Kammler was never captured. Never tried at Nuremberg. Never found dead. He simply vanished. No confirmed post-war sightings. No confirmed grave. No confirmed fate. This disappearance has made Kammler a central figure in post-war conspiracy theories. The argument goes, Kammler used the Bell and the other advanced technologies under his control as bargaining chips. He made a deal with one of the Allied powers, most likely the United States, in exchange for his freedom and a new identity. He handed over the Bell and whatever secrets it contained. And disappeared into a new life somewhere in the West. There is no credible evidence for this. But there is also no confirmed evidence of what happened to Kammler. His fate is one of the genuine mysteries of the post-war period. And that genuine mystery provides a foothold for more elaborate speculation. The broader context of Operation Paperclip is relevant here. Operation Paperclip was the real, documented, historically confirmed program through which the United States recruited German scientists after World War II. Over 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians were brought to America under this program. Including Wernher von Braun, the father of the V-2 rocket, who became the driving force behind the American space program. Operation Paperclip is not a conspiracy theory. It is documented history. And it demonstrates that the United States was absolutely willing, eager, to acquire Nazi scientific talent and technology, regardless of the moral history of the individuals involved. In this context, is it completely implausible that exotic Nazi research projects were acquired and classified by the United States? Not completely. The US acquired the V-2 program, the jet engine research, the advanced submarine technology. Why not other things? But, and this is crucial, the acquisition of exotic or speculative technology is very different from the acquisition of a working device that violated known physics. The V-2 worked. Jet engines worked. These were extensions of understood engineering principles. A device that manipulated gravity or generated torsion fields, if it existed, would have represented something categorically different. Something that would have upended the entire scientific understanding of the 20th century. And there is no evidence that such an upending occurred. Physics in the post-war era followed the paths laid out by established quantum mechanics and relativity. Not by some revolutionary new science emerging from a secret Nazi facility. The skeptical case against the Nazi Bell is strong. And it deserves to be stated clearly. First, the primary source is unverifiable. Everything about the Bell comes from Igor Witkowski's account of interrogation transcripts he was shown once and could not copy. No other researcher has found these transcripts. No other researcher has independently confirmed the specific claims they supposedly contain. This is not how historical knowledge works. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And the evidence here is, at best, a single man's handwritten notes from a document he viewed once. Second, the physics does not support the more dramatic interpretations. Counter-rotating cylinders do not, under any known physical principle, generate antigravity fields. Torsion field physics is not accepted by mainstream science. And the effects described, tissue dissolution, crystallization and blood, are consistent with radiation exposure from a conventional radioactive source. Not with some exotic new physics. Third, the Nazi war machine was desperate. By 1944 and 1945, Germany was losing badly. In that context, all kinds of projects were funded. All kinds of ideas were explored. Many of them were scientifically dubious. Many were the product of desperation rather than genuine scientific promise. The Bell, if it existed, may have been exactly this. A project funded because someone in the SS hierarchy believed in it. And cancelled, or simply abandoned, when the war ended. Not because it worked. But because Germany collapsed. Fourth, if the Bell represented genuinely revolutionary technology, the post-war world would look completely different. The power that acquired it, whether America, the Soviet Union, or anyone else, would have had an overwhelming strategic advantage. And yet, the post-war world was shaped by conventional nuclear weapons, jet aircraft, and rocket technology. Not by anything that resembles what the Bell is supposed to have been capable of. And yet the story persists. And it persists not just among credulous UFO enthusiasts. It persists among serious researchers of Nazi history. Because there are things about the Second World War that we genuinely do not fully understand. We know that Nazi Germany pursued unconventional science. We know that the SS funded research that operated outside the normal channels of German academia. We know that certain facilities and programs were so secret that even post-war Allied intelligence struggled to fully reconstruct them. We know that Hans Kammler, the man allegedly at the center of the Bell Project, disappeared without explanation. We know that certain categories of Nazi documents were destroyed before they could be captured. And we know, from Operation Paperclip and similar programs, that the Allies actively sought and acquired German scientific assets. Not all of which were made public. These genuine historical facts create a space. A space in which something like the Nazi Bell could potentially exist. The question is whether that space is filled by a real device or by our desire to believe that such a device existed. Human nature tends toward the extraordinary. We want the Nazis to have had a bell. Because it makes the story bigger. More dramatic. More significant. Because it suggests that the war was about more than bullets and bombs. That it was about the deepest secrets of physics and reality. That there were mysteries buried beneath those Polish mountains that changed the world. And perhaps, are still changing it. In secret. Somewhere. Hans Kammler was last reliably seen in April or May of 1945. In the final weeks of the war. After that, nothing. Some accounts say he committed suicide. Some say he was killed by his own men. Some say he made a deal and lived out his life under a new name somewhere in the West. His fate has never been officially confirmed. For a man of his importance, a man responsible for some of the greatest crimes of the war, that absence of confirmed fate is remarkable. And troubling. Whether it is connected to the Nazi Bell, whether Kammler traded secrets for survival, we do not know. Perhaps we never will. The Nazi Bell. Real device or elaborate myth? Genuine physics or desperate pseudoscience? Recovered by the Americans, or buried forever under Polish soil? The evidence, such as it is, does not allow a definitive answer. What we can say is this. The Nazis pursued unconventional science. They funded projects that operated in secrecy and outside normal oversight. Some of those projects were genuine scientific advances. Some were dead ends. Some were never fully understood, even by the people running them. And when Germany fell, some of that knowledge disappeared. Whether the Bell was among the things that disappeared, whether it represented something real, whether it mattered, these questions remain open. Sitting in the space between documented history and imagination. Between what we can prove and what we desperately want to know. What do you think? Was the Nazi Bell real? Was it recovered? Is it still out there, classified, hidden, studied in secret? Or was it never real at all? Tell us in the comments. If you want to go deeper into the hidden corners of history, subscribe to this channel. Next time, another story that sits on the edge of what we know. And what we cannot explain. Until then, take care.